Hey guys, I want to talk about the latest patch that just came out for Factorio, patch 2.0.45. So in this patch, there's a new bug fix that is going to kill 100% speedrunning and sort of change the way that achievements work. So basically what this bug fix does is make it so you can't set biters or trees to be anything outside of default settings. So that will kill 100% speedrunning, but also have a huge impact on just regular players that are trying to get achievements in their games. So originally what 100% speedrunners would do would take biters and push them further back with the map settings. They'd turn off pollution spread. They've modified things to make the run a little smoother, a little easier. Now we can't do that. The developers are claiming that this functionality was never intended, that it was just a bug all along, and that now they've fixed that. And what's the problem with that? Achievements should be hard to get, right? And if this was a bug, they should fix it. So what's the issue? So the issue is that this unintended behavior has been in the game for like over 8 years. It's been a part of speedrunning for many years. It's been something that's been known about. It's survived many major patches. It's survived the launch of Space Age and the DLC. It's never been touched. And then now suddenly in a random patch, it gets thrown in as a bug fix, and it's had a huge ripple on the community. There's a lot of people with passionate opinions on it on both sides. Obviously, speedrunners like myself are pretty upset. Here's posts from Anti, Warger, The Doe, all kind of saying how much this negatively affects the community, how upset they are that they won't run anymore. I myself am pretty upset because I think it ruins a great category that stood out and was different from other categories. But the game is not just for speedrunners. The developers should be able to make changes that make the game better. Thing is, it doesn't really make the game better. There's people that don't speedrun that are also upset. Here's a whole bunch of comments from people that are not speedrunners that are voicing how upset they are that their current save files can't get achievements anymore, or that to get some achievements like express delivery, you have to play the game a certain way. So yeah, lots of people are definitely unhappy about this, but there is at least some that support this. There's even one of the big speedrunners that is totally fine with this. Here's a comment from Nephrim saying that he thinks it's totally okay. He says that it's good that this exploit gets fixed. The problem I have with this is the phrasing of calling this an exploit. I think 8 years ago, you can call this an exploit. But if you have something in your game that maybe originally is an unintended mechanic, and then a huge community starts using that mechanic and developing a speedrun out of it, that community devotes tens of thousands of hours into designing, optimizing, routing, practicing, and running this category. This category represents a large portion of the viewership that your game gets on Twitch. There's even some developers of the game that are in some of these communities and are well aware of them. I think at some point during those 8 years, you lose the ability to call this an unintended mechanic or a bug that you can fix. Especially when this mechanic has no impact on the gameplay. Nothing. The game is the exact same with or without this bug fix. There's a ton of examples where the developers did fix things and it hurt speedrunners, but we never complained because it was better for the game. So an example is landmines on spaceships. The developers saw that landmines on spaceships in the early days of Space Age were way too strong. Anti-elites and other speedrunners were using landmines on spaceships in the early days of Space Age, but the developers pretty quickly patched this out. Speedrunners didn't complain. Anti-elites' own comments here say, "It's not about clinging to an exploit or rejecting change. We've been fine with dozens of updates that make runs harder, like the mine ship removal." I just personally struggle to understand who is this really benefiting? Who would be happy about this change? It feels really careless, like it was just done on a whim. There's key things in this bug fix that never got addressed, like the absorption modifier, which you think should be, but there is a post now from Kovarex saying, oh, they forgot that. That should have been in the original bug fix, but wasn't. But then enemies on Gleba can still be modified, and there's been no mention of that, which you'd think if you can't change enemies on Novice, you probably should also not be able to change them on Gleba. So there's just not a lot of consistency of what rules are acceptable to the developers to earn achievements. You can still leave resource patches fully turned up. The timing of this change is also just weird. You'd think that a major change like this would happen when Space Age launches, or maybe years ago when speedrunners first started using it, not at a random patch months after the launch of your DLC. And look, we can take a look at some of the more heated exchanges that are happening in the comment thread. Here's one user saying, I strongly agree with the achievement change. I always believed that only default or harder settings should grant achievements. For them to have any value, there should not be a way to cheat them, thus running anything easier than default settings. Which, first of all, is just a garbage take. It's so elitist, it's so gatekeepy. Like, this is the kind of person who looks at Steam and gets angry when other people have an achievement he already has. Like, he sees the percentage of people that have a hard achievement that he got, and he gets angry when that percentage goes up. Nothing is stopping this person from getting every achievement in the game on whatever settings they decide. And the doe responds to this person, pointing out that you can still get achievements with the resource patches put on the maximum setting. So the developers still have not made it so it's only default settings. They've just tweaked it so it's the way they think you should play the game. But you can have some settings easier, the ones they decide. Another user has a post saying, I've always felt the map creation speedrunners use is cheating. They're easing up the game and just playing part of it. He says a 100% speedrun without dealing with enemies isn't the real game. Then he goes on to say, I would honor every speedrunner who will take the challenge and finish 100% with enemy settings. Like, full on, just fuck this guy. As if speedrunners do anything to honor this asshole. This is like the most armchair quarterbacking I've ever seen in a comment thread. This is the kind of person who sits on his couch and watches a professional athlete and criticizes them, and then struggles to walk to the fridge. There is a reply to this guy saying, this comes across as very condescending. Yeah, no shit. There are other categories where no preset is changed. That's called default settings. Categories for Factorio speedrunning are not set in stone, but rather develop fluently according to what runners want to play. Anti-Elites gets into this topic as well. You know, he talks about how there's any percent, there's default settings, and there's 100%. They all cater to something different. So if you want that experience of like fighting biters and playing the raw game, default settings is already there. And if you make this change, we lose what 100% offers, which is more about blueprint design, routing, and mega basing. That's something you can't get in the other categories, and you'll never be able to get it if they put in this change. Katahar has a really nice comment kind of summing this up, saying that these people are on the same level as the guys who despise somebody for liking pineapple on pizza. Factorio used to be able to make a ton of different kinds of pizza for everyone, and now the Hawaiian is gone from the menu. And that's exactly it. We're only losing something here. Somebody that wanted to get 100% achievements on default settings could already do that last week. But now we lose a category for no reason. And you know what? Maybe some people just like the style of play of fast expansion, not dealing with biters as much, prioritizing factory and optimization first. But apparently for the developers and some people in this thread, they want to dictate how you have to play their sandbox game. Even Kovrex himself has a post saying, when I personally look at the speedruns, I find more value in it when it is at least remotely comparable to normal play. So for Kovrex, normal play means that you can't change the trees, but you can change the resource patches, that's fine, but you can't change the biters on Novice, that's not okay, but you can change the ones on Gleba, that's okay, at least for now, and maybe in 8 years they'll call that an exploit. I mean, at this point, who the fuck knows what's acceptable play? This level of gatekeeping and elitism just sucks, and it's not at all what I've come to expect from Factorio or the community. And the way all of this was handled sucks too. I mean, it just feels like no thought is given to a large portion of the players that enjoy playing your game, and it's not just speedrunners. Casual players are hating this too. Now, literally, as I've been editing this together and putting out my thoughts, Kovrex has another reply on the thread talking about something interesting. He says, I still have a plan for a bunch of new achievements for 2.1, which would make 100% run even more convoluted. I'm even considering to add a 100% run mode, which would be a way to get one special achievement of you getting all the achievements in one go. I have really mixed feelings on this. I don't know what to think of it. On one hand, it's interesting to see new achievements added to the game. It's interesting to see the developers actually thinking about the speedrun community when they add features. But then you've got people like Warger and others who are investing their time trying to design blueprints around the existing game, and then that game keeps changing, so their time and effort keeps getting thrown out. I don't know. I reserve judgment. It's obviously cool to see new content, and that's rarely a bad thing, but to change an 8-year-old feature of your game, and it is a feature, not an exploit, to change that feature just sucks. It kills the community and it adds nothing. Nobody is winning here at all. I don't know. Let me know what you guys think. Post in the comments. That's my thoughts on it for now. The thread keeps going. I'm sure more will happen, but I think this is just bad for everybody.